Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being here this morning. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Texas. Good morning, Harris County. Got it reversed. Good morning, the United States of America. Good morning, the world. We are going to have a great program for you today. We have a lot of stuff to discuss, but of course, first comes you. You can always give us a call at 713-526-5738. Extension number 2 to speak to us, 713-526-5738 to speak to us, or hit number 1 to give a contribution as we're still in fund drive mode. Good morning, control room. Howard Reynolds and Jack Van Beber. How are my favorite peeps doing this morning?
Well, we're doing pretty good, Egberto. Guess who ran the board for you this morning and started the show?
Who ran the... You know, I'm going to tell you something. I figured it was the Dr. Jack Van Beber, because normally you would say, coming in, Egberto, you are hot. And I can imagine Jack was right there on those controls, just calculating and doing stuff to make sure he just got it right.
He was, and is doing a very fine job on the board this morning.
Yes, I'm a doctor. I'm quite the operator sometimes.
Here you go.
Okay, the human being is something more. A spiritual being having a human experience, searching for fulfillment. And all we're really offered is materialism and religion?
Insightful.
Is that a question there?
More insightful than a question, more a statement of reality.
Oh, okay. Well, I like my material goods.
Well, everybody does, but I don't think we should rise and fall with our material goods when a lot of people are suffering out in the world.
Yes,
that's where I'm
are.
coming from.
Okay. Well, would you suffer if your material goods fell on you?
Quite a bit. They're pretty heavy.
Okay. Well, let's not hijack his show today. So let's get back to Egberto and the wonderful topic he has for us today.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, guys. Let me tell you something. I was thinking, and before I get it, first of all, the title of the show today is Biden Must Tie Inflation Drop to IRA, meaning and other Wall Street fraud exposed, and Roger Stone tape. Subtitle, Inflation Down and Biden Passed Inflation Reduction Act, Tie Them Together. Investors short shows Wall Street is a legally fraudulent casino. A short is when you make a bet on a stock or something losing value, losing its face value, that is. And Roger Stone's tape proves that January 6th coup was actually planned. And it's amazing watching them talk about it, and that they're so vile that they tape the illegalities that they intend to perform. You know, if this doesn't change the minds of people, I don't know what would. But going on to the subject, before we get on to the subject, I want to talk about a conversation with a friend, but before I do that, I want to ask folks to remember to give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute. I want you to also stay with me. We have a lot of program to talk about, and we also want you to call in and talk. This is your program, and I want to make it that because we know your calls are going to come in for the contributions, that we don't have to spend a whole half-hour pitching, but instead 2 minutes there to pitch, and that's what we're hoping that to do. So call 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute, or go to kpft.org, kpft.org. Please, folks, remember that. Now, I want to talk about this specifically. Yesterday, if you recall, we had 2 callers, I think 2 relatively conservative callers, and one caller called about Lina Hidalgo, and we kind of morphed the conversation into what employers should be doing. In other words, that we shouldn't disregard, or we shouldn't look at the issue with Lina Hidalgo having to go off for health care, medical care, while she's in the office, and look at it in the form that, well, I couldn't get that at my job. If that occurred to me on my job, they would lay me off or they'll try to get rid of me. We shouldn't be saying she shouldn't get it because the current state of the American economic system is that corporations and jobs don't allow that many a times. We should be making sure that it is law that humanity comes before business, and that if you're sick, if you have things, bereavement or other things, that you should be able to do that. Likewise, we had another caller that called in, and I think the conversation devolved into, I think I mentioned that the way the corporate state works is, in effect, it's a new form of slavery. I didn't say antiseptic slavery yesterday, but I mentioned slavery, and I got a note. As many of you contact me after the show, this particular one kind of slammed me the way I spoke to the person that about Lina Hidalgo, and the way I spoke to the person about the corporate slavery. And in which case I said, I went ahead and cut these two parts out and resent it to him and told him, okay, here is the exact recording of what occurred. Please let me know what you found disrespectful to the person and not factual. Of course, you couldn't say that. You couldn't find anything there that was disrespectful to the first or not factual. But here's the most important part that I want to mention, and it goes as follows. A lot of us that are from another country that comes here, and if we are from a country where the people who call themselves progressives in that country are pretty much just as vile as what I call the capitalists, in that the people there suffered. In other words, if we take a look at Venezuela, if we take a look at Cuba and other places, you would hear, whenever progressives in America talk, many people from these countries that escape that what that country has done to them, they will say, well, what do you want? Do you want to become Venezuela or Cuba? And even some Americans have jumped on that bandwagon and say, what progressive wants would just simply turn us into Cuba and Venezuela. To which I say that is really a cop-out. And that is a cop-out that was instilled in our minds by many of the people who run our economic system in the United States, because that's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that if you are asking for rights as a citizen of the United States, if you are asking for good health care, if you are asking for good social services, meaning good care for your kids, meaning that it's either subsidized or making sure that the employer has a plan, or, you know, actually I prefer if this is done by we the people, have a plan to make sure that everybody who wants to work can have daycare for their kids, so that you don't have that mental penalty about how are your kids doing. We want to ensure that our roads are safe. I mean, we want to have all these good things for society that actually cost. There's not only an opportunity cost, but there's a real cost to do these things. The corporate structure or economic system would want you to believe that those kinds of things that people require make business inefficient. And by the way, it does make business inefficient if inefficiency is defined as doing things not related specifically to that business. But you know what? Inefficiency many times is humane. So to the people who take exception to when progressives want to do things positive for society, good health care, good child care, good family care, basic income to ensure that we don't have people on the streets starving, to equate that to Venezuela, to equate that to Cuba, to equate that to any country that is mistreating its people, so that we as an American society are not privy to those good things, is not only a cop-out, but it is a lie. It is a lie that we have allowed to flourish within our society. And if we want examples of places that work, every other industrialized country, they may have their problems, but the one thing they don't have is a failure of treating their people the appropriate way. You would never hear of people in Scandinavian countries going bankrupt because of healthcare. You will never hear about people in Scandinavian countries that allow their people to be abused through telemarketing and all these different types of forms in which our economic system take advantage. You have heard many older folk call my program here Politics Done Right. At the time, it used to be at noon. And I remember this woman calling me and talking to me about this company that they get her. It's not one company, it's many companies. They get her every single time with their telemarketing schemes that is legal. They lie because remember, we have the right to lie. Corporations have the right to lie to you. And she would call and say, what can I do? And I said, ma'am, this is a time where until we get laws, we have to take personal responsibility, which means we shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't have to do this, but tell folks, no, we're not. Somebody tries to sell you something on the phone, you hang up. If it's not you making that positive motion towards that thing, disregard it. So, I mean, again, I want to reiterate, there too often, we allow ourselves to be brainwashed into believing that we just cannot get the things that we as a people deserve as a society, and it is something that we have to bump up destroy our gullibility index, because they constantly, when I say they, and the they is sort of a nebulous thing, because when the Powell memo was written, this is a document that said progressives are getting Americans to it. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but progressives are getting Americans too smart, and in the process of American getting smart, it will affect business. It will affect business. So we must infiltrate the churches. So we must infiltrate the schools. So we must infiltrate everything to continue to mislead people into continuously voting against their interests, preventing them from doing what's right to make society better for them. And that is what has cauterized in America. It began before. I mean, we always talk about it really being instantiated under Reagan, but it really had its genesis even before Reagan. And it is something I hope we, with programs like Politics Done Right and others, I hope it is something where we can talk to the American people and say, let's not fall for the con. Let's all work towards what's best for all of us. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Extension number 1 to contribute, extension number 2 to be on air. Folks, I'm asking you so kindly right now to please support the program, ensure that we can continue to have a platform to give the word to the American people, give the word to talk about what we can do together as a society. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 for contributions. A $40 contribution, and you don't have to pay this all at once. You can do this in increments. A $40 contribution makes you a voting member of the Pacifica Network, which means you are part of the governance structure of this entire radio network. And it's not only here in Houston, throughout the country. Likewise, a $100 contribution for our beautiful t-shirt, the Summer Sizzler t-shirt. Beautiful t-shirt, that's a $100 contribution. The Politics Done Right t-shirt, $100 as well. And a breakfast or have coffee with Egberto, that is a $250 contribution. And that really kind of gets us on the bandwagon to filling out the quota that this particular program needs to meet to remain on air. I see that Gonzalo is on the phone right now. Come on in, Gonzalo. Great to have you here on the program.
Good morning, Humberto. Happy Friday. ¿Cómo estás?
Happy Friday. Buenos días, mi hermano favorita. ¿Cómo va todo? How's all going?
Yeah, I'm on my way to work. So, first of all, what everybody needs is education. I'm not saying that because I'm a teacher. Not a system, not a single system in the world is perfect. I have talked in the past about Canada as a system that tries to meet the needs of everybody, but the key word is we all need to pay our fair share. And I'm not saying that because of what Biden said, that we need to get the rich the tax that they need to pay in order to fulfill everybody else's needs. I'm referring also to the people who are supposedly under the water. And I work in schools in which there is a big number of a population that says that is underwater. And I'm going to refer also to my fellow Cubans in Florida. And this is just a typical conversation. I'm going to fake it, but okay. It's a couple. They live together, but they file separately because they are single mothers. So they are taking advantage of a system. And how many people are taking advantage of the system? So everybody needs to be educated and pay their fair share. The rich and the one that says that they are poor. Because bottom line, the people who are doing the right thing, and I came to this country, I'm blessed to be here to do the right thing. Because you mentioned Cuba, you mentioned Venezuela, I'm not going to talk about them. It's not what it used to be, and it used to be good. If that pleased your thinking, I'm okay with that. But we need to be fair, and we need to be honest with ourselves. But, I mean, that's a big word, so nobody is able to understand that, or some people don't. So,
Gonzalo, that is important what you've just said. All of us need to have, in effect, what you're saying, all of us need to have skin in the game. And I agree with that 100%. The one thing I want to, first of all, I wanted to start this way by saying, you said you're a teacher. I didn't realize that you're a teacher. I adore teachers. You know, I'm from Panama where teachers were revered. La licenciada. And, you know, it is like when you go into a store and you see your teacher, you see a teacher from your school, it was like you straightened up and that you had that level of respect for teachers back where I'm from. And I come here to the United States now and see that teachers are not revered that they should, that somehow they're considered a problem. Thank you for being a teacher, brother. A lot of times it's a thankless job over here, but rest assured that there are many of us who know that you are the guys who move knowledge forward. If it weren't for teachers, knowledge stops. So, hey, you just made my day saying, hey, I'm a teacher going to school right now. Anyway, getting on to the subject that you were talking about, Gonzalo, you're absolutely right. And there are people taking advantage of the system. We need to find ways to lower people who take advantage of the system. But I also want to elevate that to say, in as much as there are a lot of people taking advantage of the systems, the ones that take advantage of the system more than anyone else are the wealthy. When we take a look at the perks and the things that have made them there, that is ones that take advantage. If we just look at the Ukraine war, if you take a look at all that money that we claim that's going to Ukraine, remember the only reason we are spending that money is that money going to Ukraine is actually filtered through many corporations who are pushing all that money that's going over there. So Gonzalo, I agree with you on those issues. I would love for us to be able to streamline things a lot better, not only for those with lesser income, but those with maximal income.
thank you very much, Experto, and have a blessed week.
You have a wonderful day, Gonzalo. Thank you for calling in, and you have a great day. Let's go ahead and go to I'm going to call El Alcalde de Politics Done Right, the mayor of Politics Done Right. Come on in, Johnny.
Dr. Vanderveer is a smooth operator.
How you doing, sir?
He's doing the soundboard and the phones at the same time. Good for him.
That's Dr. Jack Van Beber. You know, he's a wonderful guy, man.
Magic. I always refer to him as Magic Jack when he answers the phone. He's a Magic
Ah, I
Jack.
like that. I like that, Magic Jack. Okay, go for it. Talk to me.
Anyway, I just heard your previous caller mention how Cuba used to be good. I would have loved to get some further information and clarification out of him. What does he mean by that? Is he referring to when that puppet was in charge before Fidel and the people of Cuba rose up and displaced him, that American puppet? Or is he saying that Cuba is not good anymore right now? Because from where I sit, from where I speak, I'm thinking that little island nation, in spite of our decades-long economic embargo on those poor people, they have managed to have a world-class healthcare system, not only for their own people, but they export their medical training around the world. They have people around the world coming to their shores to learn medicine. Do we do that in the same way that they do, with all our resources, and provide medical care for our people, or do we prey on our people, unlike Cuba?
Now you've made an important comment on Cuba. First of all, let me tell you, different people during the Batista era had different experiences. People who looked like me, who were not entertainers, didn't have the best life. They were the people who swept the floors, cleaned the hotel rooms, and manned the farms, etc. You had a class of people, mostly the people descendants of the Spaniards, that had a great life. Cuba was a great institution. They grew their tobacco. They did so. I mean, forgetting about the social injustices that occur in Cuba. Cuba, for a lot of people, life was great for quite a few people under Batista. That's why it lasted so long. Now, for me and others, I would say, absolutely not. It's good. People like me became engineers, lawyers, and doctors afterwards. Of course, what that came with was a whole lot of poverty, mainly because of the embargo the United States created against Cuba. And not only the United States, but what the United States forced on other countries to blockade or to embargo Cuba. So, I mean, I get the point, and again, I see things through the eyes of the person that's speaking. And again, like I said, I have to acknowledge that Cuba, for some people, were good. But I want those for which it was good, to acknowledge the fact that until Castro came in initially, it wasn't good for everybody. And again, and we can move on from there. Do I like a communist government that runs Cuba? Absolutely not. Do I like that they have had, because of a lot of the pains that they're suffering, to create a whole lot with a very little? And it's funny, because when you are under stress, it's amazing how much you eventually have to do for yourself. And that is what happened in Cuba. That's why their healthcare system is, again, look, you still have to carry your toilet paper to the hospital, and you still have rationing like crazy, but because they have a structure that everybody has access to healthcare I spoke to a woman who left Cuba and is living in Jamaica. She's a TikToker, and I want to speak to the people who actually lived it. And she has a lot to say about Cuba. She's back in Jamaica now, but she is in Jamaica now. She migrated to Jamaica, but she wanted to explain she wanted to let people know that the healthcare system in Cuba is no panacea, but the fact that they have great primary health care and they have research into things that we don't do over here makes the system a very plausible system. Go ahead, Johnny.
Vaccines. They developed their own COVID vaccine.
Yes, they did.
They learned to do for themselves because they were forced to out of necessity. That's human
Right.
nature.
Yes, yes.
With political ideology. And by the way, had the United States recognized Cuba when Fidel Castro and the Cuban people expressed their votes by physical force, have we said, you know what? We apologize to the people of Cuba for having sat on them and economically oppressed them. We would like to extend our hand to them in friendship.
Well, that is a story. I got to step on you for a second because I need to get into the program, Johnny. But let me just say, I'm glad you said that. That is a story that we have all over Latin America and other countries in the world, and there's a reason why. It's a lot easier to deal with dictators than it is to deal with democracy. We love to claim democracy at home, but we don't particularly like democracies overseas. And the reason we don't like democracies overseas is if we want to be able to, our corporations to do certain things on a plantation in Costa Rica, if we want to able to do something on a plantation or on a mountaintop in Honduras, we don't want to have the people vote for that. It takes too much time for a corporation to do that. So we want to have a dictator that can enforce that. A quick story that you're causing me to talk about is what's occurring right now in Honduras. Honduras is being sued by American companies right now because the previous government signed a contract that in effect allowed companies to establish mini governments in Honduras, where they control a particular territory with their own judiciary and all these sort of things, right? But they want to go ahead and create these business zones in Honduras. A democratic establishment comes in now. Government comes in and say, wait a minute, you are selling our sovereignty to private American corporations or private corporations in general. We can't have that. This contract is null and void. So they're being sued for 2/3 of their GDP. That you don't hear about that in the news over here in the United States, right? You don't hear about that kind of a stuff going on. So when we go to certain countries and hear, oh, they don't like us over there. It's not that they don't like Americans. It's that they don't like what corporations have come to the country and do to many of their people, many of them peasants. So that's the issue, sir.
So to summarize, you hit it out of the ballpark once again. I am not surprised.
Johnny,
the bottom line, the American corporations dictate our foreign policy. They always have, and I'm afraid they always will, unless we rise up in our way, the way they did with Fidel.
Thank you, Johnny. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Wall Street right now. Thank you, Johnny. Anyway, folks, I've spoken about Wall Street a whole lot and talk about... Oh, wait, before I get into Wall Street, I got to do a pitch. Stay with me. I got to do a pitch. Folks, please give us a call at 713-526-5738 and hit extension 1 right now. I implore you, I ask you, we need your support for this program to ensure that we can keep this program on air. 713-526-5738. Hit extension 1. There are several. First of all, you can give whatever you want, $1 if you want, $5 if you want. But I'm asking you if you have the wherewithal to give, just like you give your cable company or otherwise. Please consider there's a $40 contribution to become a voting member of Pacifica. There is a $100 contribution for our beautiful summer sizzler t-shirts, and $100 for the Politics Done Right t-shirt. And if you want to have coffee with me, just, we go out there and spend some time and shoot the bull and tell me whatever you want. Even that you maybe like something, don't like something, want to cover something, we'll do that. That's a $250 contribution that I ask you so kindly to consider making if you have the wherewithal to do so. 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Right now we are at a big donut hole. We don't have any contributors at this point in time. So I'm asking you so kindly to consider keeping this program on air by supporting us at 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Please be sure to say that you're contributing in the name of Politics Done Right. Do rest assured none of that money comes to me. It all goes to keep the station running. Most of us out here are volunteers. We have Jacques Van Wever in that studio. He drives in 40-something minutes every morning back and forth. That's a lot of gas over a month that he's contributing to this station to make sure that we can be on air. We have Brother Howard working his butt off. He could be anywhere else, but he's here at KPFT. Let's make sure and support a station that is really there for you, that is informing you with more than just what's the fib of the day, but that's giving us food for thought and making sure that we realize that we're already empowered to do the things we need to do to have an equitable society, to have an egalitarian society. Again, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute, or you can go to kpft.org, kpft.org to be a part of the show. I want to welcome Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. She says they talk about Haiti and Somalia too. You're absolutely right, Melanie. Whenever we want to scare Americans into voting things that make us a better country, they hit Cuba, Venezuela, Somalia, Haiti. So no, we can't allow that. We can't allow them to snow us. Anyway, folks, you hear me talk about the Wall Street being a casino, Wall Street not being real, and the people that make the most money in this country are the folks who work on Wall Street. And one of the things I like to mention is that they have no real value to our society. They are there to trade companies, and people try to give many reasons for their existence, right? But no, they just move paper around. We could have created, especially now, we can create an automated system for people to monetize stocks so that they can be fluid enough to do business. It doesn't require the investment banking structure that we have. Investment banking and all these different structures are there for people who find ways to make money without doing any work, without creating any value, without creating any products or services. It sounds harsh, but that's what it is. For those people who are working in these businesses, this is not an attack on you. Our economic system is on autopilot. And we all do the things that we kind of migrate towards doing. But there are certain parts of our economy that contributes very little to nothing, but it's exploitative and parasitic. And that is what we have in Wall Street many a times. I want to play you what this particular investor is going to do with what is his $1.6 billion. I mean, I found it obscene when I listened to it. And what I found more obscene than this guy was how matter of fact it was spoken about on MSNBC. It was like, oh, look at what he's doing. He's shorting the market. Oh, the market must be. Well, listen to the story, and then we'll take it on the other side. I talk a lot about the stock market being a casino, the stock market being a fraud. And many people like to talk about the stock market being the bastion of capitalism, which it is. But if the stock market is the bastion of capitalism, if it is the instrument of capitalism, and it is proven to be a casino, it is proven to be nothing more than a gambling machine where the people who know how to operate it, while there are good times that make a lot of money, then it's great for those people. And then they create these instruments that are designed to enrich a few by making money off of money. In other words, not making money off of producing anything. And then we call it a stock market built on the facade of other corporations, etc. It's a big fraud. And if you want to see it perfectly, check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Wall Street, meantime, buzzing about a jaw-dropping new bet by the investor who famously predicted the 2008 collapse of the housing market. CNBC's Dom Chu joins us now for CNBC on MSNBC. His name's Michael Burry. For folks who don't remember, he got famous for The Big Short. Now he's at it again. What can you tell us?
So, Chris, it's not exactly a vote of confidence on where the stock market is headed, but it's not entirely clear just how negative he is on the future direction of the markets. Now, Burry has been highly followed as an investor in the markets ever since his prediction about the collapse of that subprime mortgage market, by the way, that ultimately led to the biggest financial crisis in America back in 08 and 07, 08, 09 since the Great Depression, but also because of the vast amount of money he made betting on that downturn. So when a person like that, who called the last major financial meltdown, is calling for another one, folks pay attention. So this is according to regulatory filings that they have to be made by America's biggest investors. Burry bought financial instruments that make money if the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 fall in value. Now, it's unclear what those so-called put options are valued at currently or what he actually paid for them in the first place, but the notional value of the combined negative bets covers a jaw-dropping $1.6 billion in market exposure. Now, what he actually paid for that exposure could be considerably less than that. What's interesting, though, about this, beyond just that eye-grabbing headline number, that this particular disclosure talks about the bet and it was placed, and it was at the end of June. It is not clear whether that bet is still ongoing or whether he closed it out already at a profit or a potential loss. This also is a bet that doesn't necessarily need the market, Chris, to crash precipitously for it to make money. It gives the trader the option to sell it at some time down the line, even with just a modest pullback in markets. So a $1.6 billion bet, so to speak, is catching numbers, but it's unclear whether or not he's actually going to wait for a massive drop in the stock market to profit fully, Chris.
But Wall Street and a lot of the rest of us will be watching.
Now, when somebody can make a bet, this guy is making a bet that the stock market is going to fall, that it's going to crash, meaning the retirement accounts that are invested in these instruments, they're all going to fall. But guess what? There's an instrument created by a guy who has capital, by a guy who has money, who can take advantage of all of your monies crashing, on your retirement crashing, on your savings crashing. And he is going to make billions of dollars based on that bet. He's going to produce no product. He's going to produce no service. He's just going to look at the casino, the stock market, the bastion of capitalism, and say, oh, it's going to go down because you guys have had a hell of a rise for absolutely no reason. As it falls, I'm going to profit. Stock market 101. It is a fraud. As Bernie Sanders would say, it's a business model based on fraud. I love to say it's a business model predicated on fraud. I mean, that is, and you know, people may say, Egberto, you're being simplistic. It can't be quite that way. Unfortunately, it is. All these fancy instruments that you hear in the investment banking world, collars, shorts, puts, all these things produce nothing. It's just people finding different algorithms to mess with making money on top of money and doing absolutely no work for it. And then they look at somebody who is trying to work as little as they can to make as much as they can, and they say, you guys, you poor people are lazy. The lazy ones aren't the poor people. I guarantee you right now, if you drive your car in all the underprivileged areas in Houston, Texas, in Baltimore, Maryland, in San Diego, California, in Los Angeles, California, in Phoenix, Nevada, Arizona, in Las Vegas, Nevada, go into every single one of the lower economic areas. And I guarantee you, you see those bus stops with people in this 115-degree heat in Vegas, you're going to see, or in Phoenix, you're going to see those people at the bus stops trying to get to work for a salary that is beneath what they deserve. Most Americans aren't lazy, but they'll put on TV, they'll show you the welfare mother that's eating a steak. Every time they want you to not support the indigent or the poor, they'll show you the exception. But you know what is the norm up there in Wall Street? The norm up there in Wall Street are people out there who, they may spend 12, 15 hours in that office making millions of dollars, but they're not doing anything to produce anything. They're not doing anything. And again, I want those that are listening to me right now not to take what I'm saying, if you are in the financial sector, as a personal attack, because it is a societal issue. It is what we have allowed from the inception of this country to grow into, right? I mean, when we started, our economic system was predicated on slavery and all that sort of stuff. And then one of our callers yesterday got a bit upset because I said, what we have now is a new form of slavery, right? You're told what to do. I mean, in fact, when you measure these two types of slavery, sometimes, I mean, and folks don't hit me on this, but chattel slavery, the master had to pay your health care and everything else. Now, the kind of slavery we have right now, you're disposable. They don't even want to pay you when they give you black lung. So we have to have a system that takes care of its people. Those are the kinds of things that I support. Under the Biden administration, next subject. And by the way, folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. If you want to comment on what I just said, please call 713-526-5738. Hit extension number 2, and I'll get you on air. But also, I'd like some people to call 713-526-5738 and hit extension number 1 and come on and provide a little bit of support for the program, whatever you have the ability to do. Right now we are really asking folks, those who can, to become a member. Give us $5 a month. Give us $10 a month. Give us $15 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can, to say, this is a program that, this is a station that I listen to once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. I like getting up in the mornings and hearing that crazy guy Egberto talk about things that we probably need to talk about. Support us, 713-526-5738, extension 1. Do remember to say that, to tell or make it or pull in a pull down box that you're supporting Politics Done Right, so that the management here knows that, Politics Done Right is bringing in enough cash so that we can keep it on air. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to give. And if you want to comment for us what we spoke about on Wall Street, what we spoke about before, or on anything you want to talk about, also give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 2. Please don't wait till the end of the program where I have to rush you off the phone. It's open. It's wide open right now, 713-526-5738. If I don't get a call in a minute, I'll go with the next video. And remember, you can always see all the programs that we are going to be, or rather, all the videos that I have lined up to show today. Remember, you can find it all at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. We have a fully prepared program for you every day. But as usual, you can decide to change that program. 713-526-5738, extension number 2 to be on air, extension number 1 to contribute. If you contribute right now, it'll pop up on the screen so that I can give you a thank you immediately. All right, let me just throw it back to the studio a bit to say hi to Howard and Jack. Guys, how you guys doing in there?
Well, we're doing pretty good. Sitting here listening to you and agreeing with you about the stock markets, and Jack has some observations too.
Come on in, Brother Jack.
Why does business prefer to do business with dictators? Is they can pay them a lot of money, and they do the work of suppressing the people in the country. And we go down there with our embargoes, our blockades, and our sanctions, and wall off the country, and they're paying out, to solve their lawsuits while they're taking their GDP away, and the people suffer. They end up having to pay taxes to run the country, and this ties into why immigration is moving north. They're driving them north with poverty.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, Jack, and that is, a lot of what we're seeing at our border is a direct result of our policies in Central America, but we as Americans, when we watch the news, we don't see all this news. I gave you the story about what's occurring in Honduras right now. Nobody talked about that here in the United States. So the American people can't understand then what's the genesis of that. So then the Republicans can demagogue about immigration, and and Democrats, because nobody is interested in learning these other stories, just take it, or they just they don't give the full argument. And as I say quite often that Too often, our politicians, all of them, left and right, they think too little of the intelligence of the American people. If the American people are made aware of things, we would have much better policy, we'd have much better politicians. And that's probably why they don't want the Americans to know too much, because, hey, we may start voting in good politicians. And that's not a good thing, because while we are a democracy, that while corporations allow us to be a democracy for certain things, remember, a corporation is not a democracy. It's a top-down thing where the lowest level, the employees, the antiseptic slaves are nothing but widgets, and everything else is then made on the executive level. It's not like, let's say, in places like, let's say, Germany, where sitting on the board of corporations by law, you have to have the worker. It's not there. So, I mean, we have to understand those things. Howard Reynolds, come on in, my brother.
I've got a question for you about the Honduras thing.
Yes.
What court is going to decide that? Is it going to be a United States court, a world court, a third country? Who decides that?
I think they have their own courts. I really should have had that answer. I don't. I don't think it's a Supreme Court, but I think it's a group of three guys or something to that. I tell you what, let me not give misinformation. I'll find that information and have it for you the next time.
That's super. I think Jack has one more observation here.
Yes, Jack.
There was a book that I read that really made a lot of sense to me, and it was called The Brothers, and it talked about John Foster Dulles and Allen Dulles, and they were okay. Well, I'm gonna drop that one. That's getting a little too deep. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I mean, we'll talk about that, and when you got it machinated, just let me know. We'll turn it into a little segment. But anyway, folks, give us a call, 713. We don't have any contributions yet. Please give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute. You can contribute whatever you can. Right now, our focus is on getting sustaining membership so we can have less of these drives. Sustaining membership means you give $5 a month. You give $10 a month, you give 15, whatever you can afford, if you can. But if you just want to give a one-time as well, we love that as well. Just give us a call. $40 contribution makes you a voting member of KPFT and Pacifica Network. A $100 contribution for either the T-shirt, the Summer Sizzler, or the Politics Done Right T-shirt, or anything other T-shirts that we have for sale. It could be You Talk, it could be from any of our other programs. You can also go ahead if you want to have, we can go out for coffee somewhere. And again, this is just to make money for the station. $250, and we go out, we have coffee. I'll drive down from Kingwood to wherever I need to go to have some coffee with you, etc., etc., etc. But please, I ask you so kindly to give us a call at 713-526-5738. Hit extension 1 to contribute. And again, it's well worth it. I promise you a complete program every single day of the week, 5 days of a week. I prepare to make sure I have something positive to bring forth to our audience. And by the way, you can drop me a line at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. If you have any something that you want to cover, etc. I'm glad to see that Brian called early today. Come on in, my brother Brian. Let's have a talk. Talk to me, sir.
Yeah, the big vilification is the oil companies, correct?
No.
Everybody hates oil companies.
No, corporations in general, sir. Oil companies are just one of the oil companies, it's sort of an easy thing to deal with because it is so ubiquitous. But no, I'm talking about the corporate structure in general, Brian.
Okay. How much money does an oil company make off a gallon of gas?
Oh my God! It's a ton. It's a ton. I mean, the way they do it, the way they do it from an accountant's. Let me finish. The way they do it from an accountant standpoint, it seems like it's not a lot. But let me tell you, I have friends that are executives in the oil company living here in Kingwood that we sit down and laugh about the issue. Gas. Put it this way: it's like water right now. Okay. Gas is like water. and it's almost total profit. But go ahead, make your point, my friend.
No, they make 6 cents per gallon.
That's not
The
true at all.
convenience store operator.
No.
That is,
You're talking. I mean, I'm not talking about the retail, sir. Let me tell you, gasoline, sir. I tell you what. Make your point first, then I'll correct it. Go ahead.
okay. The convenience store, he makes about 2 cents. How much does the federal government make off of each gallon of gas?
Quite a bit,
It's
like
around
40 or 60 cents.
per
Yeah.
gallon. No, 38 cents per gallon. But the oil company makes 6 cents per gallon. Now,
Okay.
where is the money going to be recovered on electric cars?
Okay. Let me just say this. What about electric cars? I think I missed that, Brian.
Okay, if you're charging your car, you're not buying gas.
True.
Therefore, the tax money that was going to be put back into the roads and the schools and the infrastructure is now gone because you're not getting the 38 cents per gallon on tax.
You know something, Brian? You are so right, and that's why if you notice, there are certain states that are already doing exactly that. In other words, having a surcharge based on how much a car drives for that tax. You are absolutely right. Right now, we get taxes from gasoline to help with the road, etc. Because you're driving on the road, you should also, that's how we collect money for the roads, right? So I don't have any problem with what you just said, because what you said is absolutely true, that electric cars would then be at an advantage for not paying taxes on the car if you don't find a way to recover them, the thing. So we don't have a problem there, Brian. You're absolutely right. So I guess there's a commonality right there, sir. Right?
Yeah.
But let me just tell you something, brother Brian. Let me just tell you something else, though. Please don't sit and believe that the oil companies profit on a gallon of gas is 6 cents. It is not. And I'm not telling you this out. I'm not pulling that number out of the air. I'm telling you for a fact, most of the money for a gallon of gas is profit. And now it's not the convenience store. There are two parts of the chain, right? They divide it into areas. In other words, they have their retail. The way the oil companies are set up, the retail section buys the oil from the development section. I don't call it development, production. All right. I mean, they do some complicated arrange. That's why you have many different oil companies in one chain. They do some significant arrangements in the way they sell oil to themselves, so that they can seem like that 6 cents that you're talking about is true. But that's not the case. You and I shouldn't be arguing about this, because I can tell you guaranteedly that that most of a gallon of gasoline is profit. And that's the reason why during the pandemic, you actually saw that what that was really like. That's all I want to say, Brian. Anything else you want to talk about, sir?
No, I challenge your listeners to fact check that.
Sure, I want them to, and I want you to fact check me for everything that I say, Brian, because that's good. I'm happy for that. I want that to be fact checked, because this wasn't a question. Like I said, a lot of oil folk live here in Kingwood, and when we go and shoot the bull at Starbucks, it's amazing how they laugh at oil being like a Christmas tree. That's what one of them always tell me. Oh, it's a Christmas tree. When oil is at the prices that it is right now, oh my God, the bonuses are going to be exorbitant. What these guys, I have a friend here who's going to make in 1 year over $100,000 just in the bonus, and they're in the retail side. So I mean, I'm telling you, it is obscene. So we need to stop. We as a people, meaning you and I, the average American here, need to start having some sort of the oil companies are suffering. They are never suffering, ever. And that goes for a lot of other corporations as well. The only people that suffer are the workers, the people who are in those tanks in Pasadena, cleaning it, where some of them die. Those are the only ones putting themselves at risk. You remember when that oil platform blew up in the middle of the in the middle of the Gulf. Those are the people that I care about. Those are the people that are actually making bringing the oil to us that we need. But those folks that are sitting down on the ivory tower that too many of us are defending, brother, I have no compassion for them whatsoever. I have compassion for you and the rest of the people. Anything else you want to add, Brian?
No, that's enough.
Thank you very much for calling in. I'm going to start calling you the second mayor. Johnny is the first mayor, and Brian is the second mayor, man. And Johnny has seniority, Brian. All right. Anyhow, folks, the number is 713-526-5738. Hit extension number 1 to contribute, please. We are still at a donut hole, so I'm going to ask Howard, tell our folks something else to see if we can get a few contributions in, my friend.
Okay, I can tell you this, that for every $1,000 that we collect, we are going to provide backpacks for our folks over at the 5th Ward Head Start Center. And we want to provide up to 70 of them. These kids are in poverty. They need the help. Also in those backpacks, I saw them yesterday, the cutest little socks and underwear we're going to provide for those, and also school supplies too. That benefits not only KPFT, but it benefits the Summer Sizzle Drive and Head Start. So that's going to be a very big thing for us to do for them, and you can contribute at 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or you can go to kpft.org and check it out. Please support this program. This is one of the most important programs. You can call in, you can give your opinion, you can fact check Egberto, and I know that Brian does that every day. He sits there intently listens. He goes, "Okay, is Egberto telling the truth this time? Is he stretching the truth?" And Jack and I were talking about Brian saying he really adds to the show, and he does. And
yes,
all of you all add to the show. We have the Chancellor, which is Brian, the Mayor, which is Johnny. And also Jack here, he adds to the show. And it's just a very important show for you to call in with your opinions, and also fact check Egberto, which is always a challenge.
And you know what is so great? I want to say, I just want to put this in about Brian. Brian brought up such an important point when he talked about the 38 cents tax versus an electric car not paying. People need to hear that kind of stuff. Thank you, Brian, for that.
All right. Now, Jack, go ahead and round us out here.
Okay, when I was talking about, there was an issue in here, so I backed off what I was saying about John Foster Dulles and Allen Dulles. They were the guys, the capitalists that came before Dick Cheney and Karl Rove. The guys behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. So, this is the capitalist. Hey,
Jack, you're right. I made time. My fault. I made time get away from us. So we got to close it down, and we got to give Dow Robbins a big shout out. Thank you so kindly for your kind support. My name is Egberto Willis. I want to thank Jack and Howard. My name is Egberto Willis. It's Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this program. We are what? Out.